my God. Well, there's a lot of power today in the room, and to talk about this topic is corporate partners and corporate social responsibility. Wow, you said something in the green room before we got to like cackling like two old ladies about our executive producer Kevin Pace, that chilled me to the bone, and I want to go into that, and that is, which we'll talk about CSR, but I think it's really an important thing to be thinking about this structurally. One of the things that we think about all the time are our presenting sponsors. They're incredible. Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Staffing Boutique, JMT Consulting, Third Sector Company, Your Part-Time Controller, and Fundraisers Friday, where you've landed today. I'm Julia C. Patrick. I'm CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy. No, I do not smoke. I just sound like I'm a 2-pack a day girl as I get through this cold. And so I've got the amazing Tony Beall, Mr. Nonprofit Consultancy, to hear today with us to really talk about this important topic. First and foremost, my friend, what is CSR?
Wow. So CSR, as it says there on the screen, right? Corporate social responsibility. And that really is what organizations commit to in terms of how they want to represent their brand to the community. So corporate social responsibility can mean anything around environmental responsibility, social responsibility, ethical responsibility, philanthropy and community engagement, which is the connection really here today, and economic responsibility. So it's really how the organization functions internally to support their external communities and customers. And we're going to talk a little bit about how that differs from some other things that we know about in the sector, like cause marketing. But that's really what corporate social responsibility is. I jokingly said in my LinkedIn post yesterday when I talked about today's episode in corporate, no, I can't even say it, corporate social responsibility, is that CSR is different than CRS. One's really good, the other one not so good in fundraising. So CRS, meaning can't remember, starts with S, ends in T. So don't get the two acronyms confused. But the corporate social responsibility, again, is really important for corporate brands and for nonprofit brands in terms, again, of how you want to engage in the betterment of society. And that can be done in many different ways when you look at corporations. But again, today with Fundraisers Friday, we're going to really focus on what that means for fundraisers and that philanthropic and community engagement aspect of corporate social responsibility.
So I have to say, I was like a little shocked that you brought up these different areas that you mentioned, like the different things that an organization might be looking at, because honestly, I just lumped it all together. But wow, when you said that, it made it seem to me that a fundraiser could go in and be so much more specific and supportive and ultimately get a yes decision if they understand what these different pillars are, because they might not be in the same, for a large corporation, they might not even be in the same building or office or city, or I'm fascinated by that. I had never really thought of it that way.
Well, I'm glad that you used the word pillars, because when I mentioned things like environmental responsibility and social responsibility, those are the pillars, and ethical responsibility. Those are the pillars that support CSR. So as a nonprofit, if you are working in the environmental space and you're a tech company whose corporate social responsibility is to minimize their carbon footprint, then perhaps they are the perfect corporate partner for you as an environmental organization. And many of these companies, aren't shy about promoting what their CSR is. So you can often find it on their websites in order, to make it easier for you to know whether or not you should be prospecting and reaching out to this particular organization or company.
Wow, I love that. I just think that's really, really important. And you said something that I want to now move into, and cause marketing and how this factors in. I mean, if you've ever gone into a corporate office structure, campus, a lot of times marketing is on the same floor, if not the same cubicle. I mean, the same cubicle section as, the marketing and communications teams. I mean, these are corporate America understands the link.
Yeah, well, for sure. And I'm glad that you kind of teed it up that way, because really, how does cause marketing factor in? Well, corporate social responsibility. I keep thinking, can't remember. My acronyms are getting all messed up today. But CSR focuses on doing good as part of the business operation. Again, it's part of what happens internally. Cause-related marketing is how you express what's happening. It's how you tell the story, how you engage customers in what your corporate It's a day today. I'm so sorry with that.
No. Well,
Social responsibility.
yeah, we've been laughing about that, but it's such a serious thing, because I've got to believe that an organization, a for-profit organization that's looking to align their mission or align their brand to somebody's mission has to kind of be spoon-fed this. It seems to me like if you could go forward to a potential corporate sponsor and say, look, we think our mission aligns with your product, and this is how we think we could do it. You've got, I mean, you've done not all of their work for them, but you've really enabled them to say yes earlier on in the discussion, right?
Yeah, so really the cause marketing enables consumers to make decisions based
Mhm.
on that organization's corporate social responsibility. And
Yeah.
I know, just me personally as a consumer, I am often making my decisions, my
Mhm.
purchasing decisions, based on a company's corporate social responsibilities,
Yeah.
and how they educate me through
Mhm.
cause marketing on how they do or do not support the things that I
Yeah.
find valuable and important.
I loved what you said, and that was very, very subtle. But you said what you do support and what you do not support. And I think that's just as valuable as of an organization. I know a lot of organizations that will not take what they call sin partnerships, like tobacco,
Sure,
alcohol, or firearms, because
sure.
it doesn't jive with their service area. And even though there's a heck of a lot of money out there with that, they've said, no, we can't align this way, because we feel like what they do adds to our problems, right?
Yes, and good for them. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to have those standards within
Mhm,
your organization. And we've talked about this on
mhm,
on many episodes around the alignment
mhm,
of donors and the alignment of investors, and there needs to be an ethical alignment
mhm,
with your donors and with your partners around your mission.
mhm.
And so I applaud those organizations that say there's no alignment here,
Mhm.
regardless of how big the check might be.
Right,
This doesn't, it just doesn't sit well. And
right.
so good for you.
Yeah, but you know what? Those checks can be mighty big, and it's a tough thing to walk away from.
Oh, it's
Um,
not an easy
it's
decision,
it's a
but
tough
at the end
thing.
of the day, I think
Mm.
I just said end of the day. I hate saying that, but it really is. It really is the right decision, because
Yeah,
what message are you sending to the community that you're serving if
right.
you are in fact aligning with partners
Mhm.
that don't support the ethical nature of
Right.
your organization or the folks that you're serving?
We have a viewer that just wrote in, and somebody that's watching us live on LinkedIn, who wrote, "This is a case for case statements."
Mhm.
Getting this up front, so that everybody's on the same page. There's
Mhm.
nothing worse than a big donor that thinks that they're going to go forward with you and do all this stuff, and then somehow it gets to the board level or something happens, and then, it has to go away, or it has to get, the kibosh on it. So, yeah,
Well, and
yeah, go ahead.
no, I'm glad you mentioned that. And case statements, yes, thank you so much for bringing that up. And Julia, what you just said goes back to how we think about, fundraising and this relationship kind of driven process and the different cycles that are involved. I mean, whether it's one-on-one donors or working with a corporation, there is that prospecting, there's that needs approach, there is that handling objections part of the relationship. So we should never find ourselves in the position where something is getting itself to board level and like waiting for a signature. And then there are these surprises that it doesn't ethically align with our organization or the people that we're serving. There should never be a surprise when we get to that level of approval if we have effectively kind of followed a relationship-driven process where we've had open and honest and transparent communication with our potential donors and investors.
So that leads me to the next kind of point of our discussion. And I appreciate you saying that, because that's really an important thing. And maybe it seems like it starts with this identifying the corporate sponsor that you want, and that's going to be a strong fit. Like not just looking at the bank, balance that you think that they have, but really understanding how this partnership can work. But that's a heavy lift. How do we identify who we should be talking to?
Well, I think there's a lot of, one of the fun aspects of fundraising, I think, is kind of the data mining and the information gathering that takes place, in this work. And that's, that's the time, that's the desk time. So we often talk about if fundraisers are sitting at their desk, they're not doing their job, which is not completely true, because there is data mining time that needs to occur, and that time needs to occur most likely, at a desk. So this data mining, this information gathering on corporations is what's going to help you identify whether or not they're a good fit. Again, most organizations, companies are very clear about who they support and what they are supporting and what they're not supporting. And you can find that information pretty readily online. And I would encourage organizations, we'll see what the comments are about this, but to move away from Google and lean into ChatGPT and AI for their research. I have certainly done that, and I've found the outcomes from that to be much more specific than a lot of the continuing like drill down that needs to happen when I rely on Google or any other type of internet kind of search engine. Not to just call Google, specifically.
I could not agree more. I agree. I think you're spot on with that. And I would also say, to go back to your board and say, look, this is what we're looking. This is what corporate social responsibility partnerships could look like. This is who we think would be a good fit, even if it's not the company, but like the topic or the market share area. And then say, who do you know? Do you work with these folks? Right? I mean, is there a way to get an introduction via your board that would save a heck of a lot of time?
Yeah, and again, that's part of the data mining. So someone called me earlier this week that I haven't heard from in maybe 5 or 6 years. And they wanted to pick my brain on a kind of challenge that they were having with an opportunity. And I went back to data mining, and they talked specifically about an individual that they were supporting, in terms of helping to raise money for this individual's organization. And I said, spend some time on LinkedIn, go to their profile, see who they are connected with, who are their first level connections, kind of identify the ones that seem like they would be the most likely, again, this is our prospecting, the most likely to support this organization and this individual, and then go back to them and say, I found 10 people that are first connections with you on LinkedIn. Let's reach out to them first.
Love it. I love it. And I think that as somebody who gets pitched morning, noon, and night, and I know you do as well in your community, when somebody comes to me and they've done their homework, it elevates the prospect of starting a relationship or working with somebody. It really does. And it's not just an ego thing, Tony. I feel like it's something that it's like, okay, they're efficient. They're not going to waste my time. I'm not going to waste their time. It just elevates the conversation in a way that I think is really strong.
Yeah, I mean, the fact finding, the data gathering prior to conversations and meetings just speaks volumes to the folks that you're connecting with.
Okay, so now we've figured out who's going to be a good fit, who we want to date, who we want to marry, how this is going to look, and we're all excited.
We're so excited.
We're so excited. We're picking out the colors of the flowers and the bridesmaids' dresses. How do we navigate to this sometimes dicey part of getting an MOU, a memo of understanding, or something formalized? Can you help us understand that?
Yeah, so I think you said something really important there, and that is that we shouldn't shy away from this. This is part of running a business, right? And having these expectations and deliverables in writing is part of running a business. An MOU is really kind of a formal handshake. It's not, it's not a really strong legal document or anything, but it certainly helps define roles and responsibilities, expectations, shared goals and objectives, resource sharing. Are we going to be sharing staff time? Are we going to be, are we going to be sharing, is our marketing team going to be involved? And, and how decisions are being made. I mean, all of those things are what are defined in the MOU and so critical, not only, when it comes to relationships with corporations, but as we continue to expand our collaborations with other nonprofits that share a similar mission, these types of MOUs and, again, formal handshake is really important in terms of clarity and understanding expectations and helping to define deliverables. So again, it doesn't have to be complicated. I think that's the other thing that's important to realize is that an MOU doesn't have to be complicated. But it's important in order to, again, just to really define the partnership and to help, again, define and give a visual to the roadmap.
Yeah. And I think that, for me, when I look at organizations, they're like, this is either part of their mindset and their culture. Like they formalize their sponsorship packages, they formalize their donor agreements, they, contracts, policies with their board members, whatever. They're kind of used to that environment, right? And so to me, when I think when we talk about this, I look at an organization who feels like, ooh, that makes me feel icky. I don't want to do that. It's probably they're failing on this topic in many other areas in the organization.
Yeah, probably so. And what I would say to the organizations that are hesitant around formalizing these types of partnerships and relationships, I think that most times, there's no data, I'm going from my gut and just my experience, that your donor or your investor is going to think more highly of you and it's going to lend more credibility to you and your organization, that you do take it seriously, that this isn't a one, I hope it works out, and if it does, great, and if it doesn't, see you later. I mean, you really are showing your commitment to the investment, to the donor, to the partner, to the community by making sure that you cross those T's and dot those I's.
Right. No, I appreciate that. I think that's a really important aspect. And so we don't have a lot of time left, but now I want to finish up with the thing that I always think when I first met you now, almost 6 years ago, you really highlighted the aspect of the relationship. And so I want to talk about this. Like, how do we nurture a corporate, sponsorship relationship? And what does that look like? Because I think for a lot of these folks, they go into this heavy lift and they're looking forward. They want to do things more than one time or one
Sure.
year. And it's kind of a dance, but then there are a lot of things that change. The economy right now, we have a lot of drama and chaos from a changing administration. There are all things that go on. And so how do we nurture these relationships? Because it's a daunting thing.
Yeah, so my head just exploded because there's so many things I want to say about that. And you again, once again, Julia, queued that up beautifully. Uh, so nurturing these sponsorships. Well, part of it goes back to the MOU and understanding what the expectation is of the partnership, and then being mindful about your communication, how you're communicating, the cadence of your communication to that partner so that they understand how you are meeting or maybe not the deliverables of that MOU or that partnership. So again, the MOU is really important because as you nurture the relationship or continue to steward it, you're going to want to be able to reflect back on how you were able to meet the expectations of that partner, kind of as they're defined, in the MOU. So that's just one way. That's why the MOU is so important. Also, understanding, and again, it'll be defined in the MOU. What excites that corporate partner? Do they want other business to business connectivity opportunities? So are you inviting them to network opportunities and other engagement opportunities with other donors or other corporations that you're aligned with so they can have those B2B opportunities? So nurturing, again, go back to the MOU, but before you can even create the MOU, it goes back to the relationship and having those transparent and honest conversations around expectations, deliverables, so that you as the fundraising professional know going into this how you need to communicate those deliverables and what they really mean to your investor and your partner.
You said that and in your comments made me think of one of the most interesting things I ever saw. And that was the CSR leader of a national grocery store chain based here in my community, Phoenix, Arizona, fifth largest city in America. So this gal got asked a lot, right, for things.
Oh, sure.
I mean, and it was crazy. And one of the things that she did was that she went to a printer and she had a giant like plastic, like I call it the rubber check, but a check made on poster board, foam core board. And then she had dry erase markers and she would write in whatever the amount was that her company had donated. And then she would go to the events and be like, okay, take a picture with me on this, because she wanted acknowledgement for her marketing and her social media, and nobody was doing it. And she's like, well, screw that. I'm going to do my own check and I'll just write it in. And, it was, first of all, it was shameful that nobody had thought of that. But it was brilliant that she owned it. And by doing this, she helped promote even further these organizations that she was partnering with. And she would do it. She had one, I think, that was like for pounds of food, or she had one that wasn't just like the financial check, but she had something else. And dang it, that was one of the smartest things I ever witnessed with this type of person doing this work, because it's really important work and it involves a lot of money.
I love that story. That's great.
Isn't that hilarious? Yeah, and I remember she told me, I said, oh my God, this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And she said, well, I would have gotten a bigger check, but I had to figure out what would fit in my car.
She wasn't going to upsize her vehicle for a bigger check.
Yeah. And so she always had it in there, and she'd drive around or whatever she was invited to and where they had made a donation. Yeah. I mean, but I think it goes back to what you said, and that is, we don't, and I've learned this from you too. We don't ask our donors, we don't ask our partners what they need, how they want to report out, what makes them, what is more valuable in the relationship. And I don't know why we're afraid to ask that.
It's so important. I mean, we know through our experience, Julia, that some partners, some donors are going to want a whole dashboard every month of data. Others are going to want something quarterly. Some, as you just mentioned, corporations are really going to look more towards, how Instagrammable is this relationship, and what are those, what's the social media impact and the brand engagement, through likes and visibility and the such through the marketing kind of lanes. Others are going to want to see, the number of people fed and how often that's taking place. Some are going to want to know the nutritional value of those meals that are being delivered. When I use that as an example. So it's, again, it is so important that we understand what is valuable and important and motivates the individual donors and the corporate supporters.
I love that. The motivation, it's not just the money, it's the other M word, motivation.
For sure.
That's a cool thing. Well, always, it's just such a pleasure to be with you. You energize me. I mean, it's the end of the week on Fundraisers Friday, but I'm always I learn so much from you, Tony, and you are really one of the great minds in our sector. And boy, I am really glad that you are in our sector and not like an armaments or, the dairy industry or something, right? I mean, I'm really grateful, and I want to publicly say that you are championing what our fundraisers do continuously with really smart and actionable ideas. So thank you. One of the cool, it's fun. One of the cool things that we do is every once in a while, about once a month, we have ask us, your fundraising questions. And we'll do an episode, and they're all different questions. And so if you have a question for us, email us at info@americannonprofitacademy.com or reach out to us on our social media. Or as happened one time, I was getting on a plane and somebody asked me a question as I was trying to find my seat. They recognized me and had a question about a board member. And I'm like, look, let's talk later. I got to get.
Can you save that for after the peanuts, please?
I know. I'm like, champagne first, and then we'll get to that. No, I wanted to say that, but I didn't. But anyway, really, get us your questions. We know you have them, and we keep them confidential. And yeah, it's a really an interesting thing.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Pardon me. Another great thing that we have are our sponsors. They include Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Staffing Boutique, JMT Consulting, Third Sector Company, Your Part-Time Controller, and of course today, Fundraisers Friday. This is a new episode that we've started the first part of the year, basically. It's really been fun. It's really picked up a lot of steam, and we are thrilled that you all are here with us. Okay, my friend, you know how we end each and every episode. We end with this message, and it goes like this: to stay well so you can do well.